good afternoon to you all. That's how I start class, so we're just going to do that, I guess. So I'm just a regular teacher. Let me just introduce myself. I teach down at North Sanpete High School. I have been teaching financial literacy for 10 years and love it. It was kind of dropped on me. I got hired to teach family consumer science, and then I got there, and like 10 days before the first day of school, they said, "Oh, and by the way, you're teaching financial lit too." And I went, "Neat, what?" And jumped in with both feet and have loved it. And I wouldn't give it up. They'd probably have to fire me to take it from me. Like I love it. So what I just wanted to share with you is some things that I do to try to exit the lecture mode. Microphone. Sorry, everybody. I grew up in a lecture home. My father was kind, but very lecture heavy. Education in the olden days was very lecture heavy. And so I find myself in my journey struggling to get out of lecture mode. Because, like any good teacher, I love the sound of my own voice. So what I've done, what I just want to share with you here, this, nothing fancy, but this QR code will get you to this document. That's all it does. And then all of those links are active links that you guys can access. So that's what that's for. And then also, if you would prefer to do just a QR code, or not a URL, that's right there too. So all I want to do today is just share with you some of the, I'll be completely honest, they're kind of glorified worksheets. It's how you use them that will be more entertaining or more engaging, right? The point of me having created these is to create a more engaging classroom. So I just want to show you what I've created, what I've been using in my class, and why the kids like it. I would not share this with you if I hadn't been getting positive feedback from the kids. So, what I've done is I've got them listed here. So these are all active links to the various sheets. And then I tried to just kind of tell you where they highlight to the standards in case you're trying to work on something specifically. So for teaching income and compensation, I have pretty much all of these are structured very similar to this, where I create a scenario. I try to give them little stories, like Emile and Clara are a couple with the baby on the way. They've immigrated from France. They're in Ohio. I actually have found multiple kids reach out to me and tell me they really like the little bio blurbs. It makes it feel more real. I had one girl, I remember, she was very excited, very excitedly said, "I love these little descriptions. It's like I get to know these people." And I know that wouldn't work for all the kids. A lot of the guys in the room could not care less, right? But that's why I include that, is it just tries to bring it to life a little bit more. This particular one, I'm trying to teach them about, again, income and compensation stuff. So I give them four questions, and then I have a second example down here. Sorry, my mouse. There we go. And the way I do this is I print these out, and I just pass them down the row. I have kids work in pairs, and I have them work together to solve the questions. It really is that simple. And like I said, kind of a glorified worksheet, but I've found, to my surprise, that the kids engage with this way more than if I'm just teaching the principle. And so, this allows them the opportunity to, Emile's teaching job pays 45 grand. What kind of income is this? And then they circle, right? Is that salary, wage, commission? A couple of those. So I'm not going to go through each one of these line by line. You guys can read, you're educators. I don't need to hold your hand, but I just kind of want to show you what this is designed to do. It's printed, so they just write their answers in there. And then what I do after everybody in the class has had that opportunity to work together with their neighbor on it, we go through it together. And so I say, okay, who are my Emile and Clara family or people? And kids raise their hands, and I say, okay, so let's go. What do you guys think? Is that a wage or a salary? And I just get them to engage and respond with me on that. Meanwhile, half the class doesn't know the Laurents. I don't speak French. I don't know if I said that right. Half the class doesn't know them, and so they get to listen. And sometimes I will specifically ask the kids who didn't get this one. So they're making, Emile is making $45,000 a year as a teaching job. Is that a wage, salary, or commission? And then those kids get a chance to respond for the first time. So that's just how I use it. Obviously, you can use it however you want to. You do have access to these, right? These are all shareable, all of these links that I gave you. So that's this link right here. Feel free to make a copy of it. If you don't know how to make copies, just really quick, I'll show you. You just come up to File, click Make a Copy. And then that becomes yours. So then you can edit it to your heart's content and add questions and whatever. So I always love working inside of spreadsheets because I am what they call in the industry a nerd. So that's my preferred medium. So that's one example. Do you have any questions on this? Yeah?
Does that just print out like a card size, or what is that printing out like?
Well, I'm not sure this will work because I don't have internet connection. Oh, there we go. Print. Thinking about it. The short answer is you can print it to whatever size you want. If you just click on print, which it doesn't look like it wants to do it right now, it will automatically it'll automatically fill the page. What I found, sorry? With the answers? No, it shouldn't fit. That's a good point. I was about to say what I actually do to make sure I'm not getting extra space that I don't need. You just highlight what you do want to print. So you have all those cells selected, and then you go to print, and then there will be the option to say print selected, and then it will only print the highlighted cells. And that utilizes the most paper. So that's how I do that. Good question. Any others? Oh, yeah, you bet. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see. Nope, too far. OK, we'll do that. If your QR scanner isn't working, I also have the bit.ly down at the bottom, which I'll get to in a second. Anything else right now? OK. Wow, standing room only. I did not anticipate this. OK, neat. 2 seats here, 2 seats there. OK. So again, that one was just right here. It's just designed, so I include it as part of my income and compensation lesson. I've already taught, by the time I show that, I've already taught them what gross and net income is. I already taught them what overtime is. And that was one of the questions that they had to solve was, So I gave them a story problem right here. They're trying to save money for their upcoming baby, blah, blah, blah. How much disposable income do they have? This one's where they have to calculate the overtime pay. I've already worked through that with them. So this is kind of a formative assessment for if they picked up what I taught them. Yeah, you bet. bit.ly is right there, and I believe it is case sensitive. And my email is in your program, so if there's technical issues and you're unable to access any of these, just send me an email and I'll try to help you out. I've got 2 seats there, 2 seats there, 2 seats there, 2 seats here. Or you can crisscross applesauce, whichever you prefer. OK. For my budgeting lesson, when we go through budgeting, I actually have 4 different scenarios because they're a little bit more in-depth, as you'll see. Hi, ladies. I have 2 here. And single, there's 2 back there. So for my budgeting scenario, it's a 2-pager. I'll print both sides. So here again is our scenario. By the way, the art on all of this is just ChatGPT. I just told them to do that. So if any of them look a little bit weird, I know. But I'm not an artist, and I'm not going to take the time to fix it. So here's their little bio, right? And since this is about budgeting, I give them that financial information. I give them a whole list of expenses, what their financial goals are, and then here are the instructions for the students. And again, there's 4 different ones. I'll show you all 4. And I print these out, and I just pass them through the class. I'll let the kids pick one, pick which ones they want, basically. And then I have them work in groups of 2 to 4, typically. So this is on the reverse side. That's where they write their names. Here again is their instructions. And then I just tell them to make a budget. I leave it very free form. There are no right answers when I give this. Of course, you guys can do whatever you want. But when I give this, I don't want the kids to try to solve what I want. The way I tell them is, okay, you're their financial advisor. What would you tell them to do? How would you advise them to handle their money? If you actually total all of these numbers for each one of the 4 scenarios, there are some that are harder than others. And I do that on purpose because that's kind of how life goes. And they're going to see some people have more money than other people. So that's one example, the Reyes's, and then we have the Luz's or Luz's. I don't know how to pronounce that very well. So this is another example. Net income, same idea. Third one, single young man. His is the easy one. Of course I don't tell the kids which one's the easy one, but this is the easy one. At the end of the scenario, they look at this one and they're like, that was easy. It's like, yeah, let's go talk to the Luz family and see, how they thought about that. So that's number 3 and then number 4. So I print out all 4. I just pass them through the class, have them work in groups. And like I mentioned earlier, honestly, to my surprise, I've gotten a lot of engagement from this. I was worried when I came up with this idea that the kids would be bored, like I'd just given them a worksheet. I actually found the majority of kids jumping in and really busting out calculators and pencils and getting to work. So that's why I'm sharing this, because I thought this was actually pretty successful. Any comments or questions on the budgeting? Yes?
Do you do this as an activity or do you do it as an assignment?
Good question. I have historically tried to make time to make sure that it is an in-class activity that we can discuss afterwards. The debriefing afterwards I feel is really helpful because we'll pull up Alexis's budget and I say, okay, so who are my Alexis kids? And they raise their hands and say, how did you solve it? And how did you solve it? And of course they do it differently and that's okay. There's no wrong answers. Again, it's what I tell them. As long as you can balance and you're not in the negative at the end, then you did it right. That's kind of how I tell them. But sometimes I get long-winded. Sometimes earlier in the lesson, kids get long-winded. If I run out of time, then I will turn it into a homework option for them. So the way I do homework is I give them a bank of homework and I say, pick 2 for this unit. And then if we run out of time, I'll say, okay, kids, I want you to take this. If you do this, this counts as one of your homework. So it's not additional homework, it's just additional options. That's how I do it. Obviously, you guys do you.
And if students are absent, do you require them to do this as homework?
If we did it in class, I do actually give them extra credit. It's not extra credit, additional homework credit for it. If kids missed class, yeah, I have a file folder. They just come and pick it up from me. But again, that's just how I do it. So, any other questions on the budgeting activity?
How much discussion going into this? Do you lead with this? Is this in the middle? Is this at the end of your budgeting discussion?
Good question. I typically, for almost all of these, I seed information first, and then I have them practice. I designed these to be more, I've taught you, now let's practice the principle. So by this point, the kids already know what a budget is. They already know about pay yourself first. They already know about, just the basic principles of add up all your variable expenses and your fixed expenses, and they already know about that.
And so you've talked about variable, that's one of the strands, I think, isn't it? Or standards?
I believe so, yeah.
Variable and fixed. So you have that discussion of variable and fixed before you get into the actual budgeting worksheet.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, I think my budgeting lesson, I think, is a 2-day lesson, so we do this at the end of day 2. That's how I do it. Okay. So those are the 4 different scenarios there. And again, if you guys want to look at them more in depth, that's right there. That isn't in Google Docs, which again, once you make a copy, you can edit it. If you want there to be harder or easier scenarios, or you want there to be a clear, smarter way to do something, obviously you have full edit capacity there. The tax calculation is probably the most complicated one that I do, and it is, in the past, I have sometimes just given it straight up as a homework option. If we haven't had time, it's like, okay, if you really want to, because it's really difficult. I found it really difficult to get kids to really care, like really jump into the tax idea. All they know is they hate it, and that's all they know. And so I'll generally provide this one as a homework option if they want to learn more. So I formatted this one a little bit differently. So you have the same one on one page, so you can print one page and get 2 copies. But we have 4 scenarios again. So there's scenario 2, scenario 3, and scenario 4. I guess my internet dropped before that one loaded. So what this one is designed to do, actually, hold on. Do I have the other information? Okay, I'm gonna turn on my hotspot because I definitely want you to see what those other ones are. So just a second. Just to make some people wonder, you know? If they're looking around for internet that day, just make them think.
You ever go to, in this tax discussion, you ever go to the irs.gov worksheet?
In the lesson, when I'm talking about the W-4, I will go in and I'll show them that. Okay. My hotspot doesn't want to work right now either. Fine. I guess I will keep talking and then it'll load if it wants to. So the idea here, well, actually I will scroll down because we did see that at the very, very bottom. This is the tax bracket circa 2022. Yes? That's okay, we'll make do. Thank you, I appreciate that offer. So I have this up on the board, on the screen when we're doing this activity. Maybe, maybe? Aha, splendid, okay, cool. So I have the tax bracket. There we go, great. On the board, and so obviously since the tax brackets update, you're gonna need to keep some sort of stability, however you wanna manage that. I just use the 2022 one because that's when I made the slideshow that I use. So having that up on the board, I then give them this, and again, they can work in groups. Their income, marriage status, kids, which, and I put these both here because I want them to figure out which deduction they're supposed to use. This, and by this point, I've talked a little bit about deductions from taxes and that kind of thing. So, and then their contributions there. And I say apply the lowest tax rate only to the portion of their income. So by this point, I've already explained how the progressive tax system works. I showed them a video. It's in my lesson. I showed them a video how a 22% tax doesn't apply to the entire income, like I've talked about that. And so this is just designed, this whole thing is designed to make sure that they understand how taxes actually work. A lot of adults don't know what the progressive tax system is. My whole point of this exercise is make sure the kids know what the progressive tax system is. This one, because it definitely goes what I would consider a step or two farther than we really kind of have to go, and time is always short, I will drop this one if we run out of time. But some kids actually, again, to my surprise, some kids actually love, a lot of kids hate math, but I think what most kids hate is theoretical math that is meaningless, it floats in the void. But real math, like, oh, hey, this is what I'm going to have to do. I find a lot of kids actually like the math a little bit more when they feel like it's real. So what I wanted to show you at the bottom was, these are the solutions. So you have the answers. Feel free to check my math. I'm not perfect. But if I did my math right, those are the solutions for you. You can check the kids' answers. And this was a bracket that I created as a sample. So we go through this together as a sample before I hand them theirs, and then they work together. So that's what this is. So you have that, which of course my solutions are based on that tax bracket. So any questions about the tax option?
How many days does this take up on your teaching?
if I give the kids as much time as they want on this, the whole tax discussion is a day and a half. Usually a day for the lesson and half a day for this. Anything else?
How long are your class periods?
70 minutes. 72, 70, I don't know. From bell to bell, I don't know. Whenever the bell rings, I kick them out. Yeah, I think it's 70, 72. Okay. The next one I'll show you is debt repayment. We spend a good 4 days just talking about debt. Just debt itself, not to mention like car loans and that kind of stuff. And so with the debt repayment, what I did here, again, we have two scenarios. Same idea. Cut them out, pass them out, work in groups. I link them to a debt repayment calculator. I love online calculators because that's what I use. I just try to teach the kids how to use what I know how to use. There's all sorts of online calculators that are really cool. So I just give them the link to the debt repayment calculator. And then here again is the scenario. Solve section number 1, solve section number 2. So in this one, they're trying to solve the monthly payment amount based upon the circumstances. And then if they were to pay an extra $100 on their student loans per month, how many months would they shave off? So what I want them to do, should they ever decide to take out loans, I want them to know how to calculate how to get out of those loans. Because that's what I would do. I mean, when I had my student loans, when I had whatever else, that's what I did. When I wanted to calculate how I was going to get out, I pulled up a calculator and I started just playing with numbers. And that's just what I want them to learn how to do. And then I just changed the scenario down here a little bit with the car loan. So this one's student loans, this one's car loan. And then down here, Sophia, credit card debt, car loan. Questions about that? I don't know why my male students really like this card. I'm not sure why. Good there? Okay. The next one is car shopping. I taught car shopping in the same unit that I teach them debt because a lot of people like to go in debt for cars. And so what I did here, again, scenario-based stuff, a little bit of information about them. 2 cars. Let's see. Yeah, this is the car that Rosa wants. This is the car that Anthony wants. The Toyota. Copyright. I mean, you got to, not copyright, trademark, right? So I give them a little information about the vehicles. Again, I've already talked about car buying and car shopping at this point. So this is applying the data we've talked about. And just solve 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I provide a debt repayment calculator. It's the same one from the other one. And also a car depreciation calculator. So if you're trying to figure out what is the true cost of your car, you have to not just consider its price, not just consider the insurance, you've also got to consider how much money you're going to lose on it per year. I talked to them about why buying brand new cars is financially idiotic. No, I'm just kidding. It's maybe not the best choice for a young person without a lot of financial stability. So getting them to think about depreciation is what I'm trying to get them to do there. And you have your answer keys over on the right. That's just for you guys. And yep, so 2 scenarios there. He's our college kid. This is our settled family. This is our college kid. Again, I let the kids choose. I pass them out, and then they get to talk. And the diversity makes the discussion more interesting. Anything there?
So you're doing all this paper. You got a lot of paper going on.
Yes, I do this all paper.
Ever consider trying to put it online or doing it as through Canvas or?
Yes, absolutely, you could. I have thought about it, and I've decided not to. And the reason why is we have a one-to-one. Like all of our kids have laptops, have MacBooks, and they struggle with self-discipline and not just playing games. And so I've actually, in a complete 180 from where I was 6 years ago, I've actually started going back to paper so that I can tell them to close their laptops and put them away so that I don't have to fight them about focusing on.
Other than the online calculator.
Right. Yep. And even then, well, yeah, with that, just having them pull up the calculator, I find that I have less classroom management issues by keeping it on paper.
Also, feedback from high school students for me is like they appreciate paper and pencil. They're like, sometimes I just like this so much better. So I try to do a mix of the two.
Well, and I thank you for saying that. I think there's a lot to be said for, I've heard like, so you're getting this like, I don't know, 15th hand at this point, but I've heard things about how the actual manual tactile usage of pencil and paper activates more parts of the brain and engages in higher levels of learning. So, but while I will pretend that that is precisely what I was thinking about when I designed it this way, it was mostly the classroom management of computers. That's ultimately why I do paper.
I put it on campus, but then I also say, whoever wants a paper copy, I have one. And kids always want more paper copies than I make, and I keep reminding myself.
That's good. I like the diversity on that. Yeah, yeah. I can easily see how I could convert this into a Google form or a Google quiz or whatever. But yeah. So you guys definitely could do that. Anything else on this one?
It just seems like for a teacher that has like 5 preps or 5 different subjects, how much work do I want to do in terms of grading and extra paper and keeping track of it?
That's a great question, yeah. So I consider this all formative work. So I give them points for if they did it. Even if they didn't get because we go through the numbers, like those answers on the right, we go through those together at the end. And so the way I do it, it's very little grade work for me is, did you do it? Were you in class? I saw you working on it. Were you a part of the conversation? If you did, you get the full credit. But that's how I do my grade structure so that these kinds of homeworks never equal more than 5% of their total grade. And so I feel comfortable giving them little freebies like that. Yeah.
It's also great for data and also to show parents and parent-teacher conferences. This is what Johnny did.
Oh, how nice.
Why you didn't do this.
How nice it must be to have parents who come to parent-teacher conference. I've had many years with no parents. So yes, that is a good point, though. That is a good point. Anything else before I move on? We only have a couple more. I'll let you guys out early for sure. Hopefully you don't mind. My kids always get so angry when I let them out early. Okay. All right. So let's see. We've got car shopping, insurance versus savings. So with this one, sometimes the question comes up, is it better to buy insurance or maybe a higher premium insurance, or should I just save up the money? Like I've had kids ask me, what if instead of me paying $200 a month to my car insurance, what if I just saved $200 a month? Like I have to get the liability, but that extra stuff, what if I just put that into a savings account, and then if I need it, I have it, and if I don't, I have extra money. Like, what about that? Yeah.
Are you using, for the numbers, for the costs and everything, are you using meetup, or are you looking at actual cost of insurance, actual cost of all these things?
I tried to keep the numbers relatively realistic. I didn't go to extreme heights to make sure that the numbers are hyper accurate, but they should be in the ballpark enough to be realistic. But of course, if you feel like something isn't realistic, you get to edit it. That's why I'm giving you guys the access to the document itself. So this one's, again, just, I think I have 4 different scenarios on this one. The pictures aren't loading, but they're there. There we go. And 4 different types of insurance here. So the Fuentes family, they're looking at auto insurance, and I just have them go through the math. What would it be like if they decided to get the cheapest auto insurance possible and put the extra money into savings? And then something happened. What would that be like? And that's what all 4 scenarios are. If they decide to do this and then stuff happens, what would that be like? So this one's auto insurance, this one is health insurance, this one is life insurance, and that one is long-term care insurance. So all 4 divvy up across the class. And then I have them decide whether they think it's a good idea or not to do the insurance or do the self-saving method. 9 times out of 10, the kids conclude that the insurance is the better option. That's up for them. That's up for them to decide. I give my opinion, but I also make it very clear that it's my opinion. It's their life. It's their money. They get to make that choice. And that's where I get to talk to them about risk and risk transference with insurance and that kind of stuff. And again, we've already talked about insurance. They already know what these 4 types of insurance are by the time we're doing this. Any questions on that one?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just picture my students, and if they would say, oh, well, I have number 2 or whatever, then they just check out as you're talking about the rest of them. How do you combat that? Or do you have that problem?
Yeah, I do have the issue of kids like, hey, well, we talked about mine, so now I can turn off. At that point, I will call on kids who didn't have that one. And so I just try to force them to be a little more engaged with the unexpected, okay, Tom, tell me what you think kind of stuff. But no, it's a real issue, yeah. Anything else? Okay. Then the last one that I have made, I have other ideas. This one is actually quite different from what I've just been showing you. This one is in the investing unit. We've already talked about what investing is, and our school has a contract with School AI. And so what I've done here is I've created a space, if you know what that is. I've created a space in School AI specific to this assignment so that kids can log on and chat with an AI about primarily these 6 different investing vehicles. And there's tons of space here. It's a 2-pager with a ton of writing space. I tell them that this is not a worksheet you have to fill out perfectly. These are guiding questions. And so what I tell them is I want you guys to talk with the AI and learn from the AI. Have a conversation with it like you would another person. And these might be great questions to ask, like the prompts that I've given you might be great questions to ask, but also just talk to it and learn about whatever else you want to learn about. And I've only had the opportunity to execute this exercise once. What I was very surprised, so I've been teaching insurance for investing for 10 years. After I did this activity and then I engaged the class in conversation on the topic, I was actually very surprised to see how many kids remembered new stuff and participated. Kids that normally didn't participate were engaging in the conversation. I was really surprised at how much engagement I got from the class and how much they seemed to have learned. I feel very confident in saying that the kids that got to engage in this activity, the one time that I have done it so far, learned more than the times when I'm just teaching it. When kids aren't in class and they have to come in and make this up, usually what I'll tell them is, go have a chat with your AI on this stuff. The one that I really care the most about is number 6, because that's kind of the summative knowledge of what they've learned from all their discussing. So if I have a kid who's behind, I'll tell them, go easy on 1 through 5. Really give me your content knowledge on 6. That's what I tell them.
So as far as timing of this, is this the first thing you do when you introduce investing? Hey, we're going to talk about investing, can do this, or do you do front loading first?
I did, my standard MO is front load, and then this is formative. I can see that doing this as introductory could actually be very interesting because I imagine it would give really good context for the rest of the conversation that I would bring up after. So that's not a bad thought, but I've never had the chance to try that. Yeah.
Is this space, is it already created in School AI and available through School AI, or is it available, or do we need to go in and just kind of be like, insert it in ourselves as a
In School AI, can you just share?
I believe I can. I don't, we just barely got our contract, and so I don't have a lot of experience with it. But I believe I can make that public. Right now it's private. It had not occurred to me to make that public before this presentation.
It's been similar with buying versus leasing cars.
Oh, yeah.
And so then when we had a class discussion, I didn't give them information before. It was a much better discussion about buying and leasing cars.
So you had the chat
And
beforehand.
literally, the chat would tell them, like, a kid would be like, I want to buy this, or lease this, and they're like, we're not discussing this certain type of car, but what is better, buying or lease? They like,
Yeah.
kept pushing them back to
Yeah.
where I wanted them to be, and it was pretty great. It was good.
Thank you for that. If you like this idea, go ahead and you would like me to share the space with you, just go ahead and send me an email. And once I figure out how to share spaces, I will do that. I will happily do that. So yeah. I gave a little, 'cause it surprises me, at least I don't know about your students. My students were very low tech out in the middle of the boonies where we are. And so this little prompt helped some of my students when they felt like they dead-ended with their AI or weren't sure what to do. That prompt was helpful for them. But. Okay, anything else on this one? So those are the ones that I have now. I have grandiose ideas about similar types of activities for buying a home. I want to be able, like the car one, I want to be able to provide home options for them to choose from. I also have ideas for retirement planning that I want to do. I just didn't get to it this year. And there was another one that I can't think of right now. So this is something I'm still working on and expanding on. But like I said, I found it pretty, well, here's kind of my motto. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be an improvement. This is, in my opinion, this has definitely improved the level of engagement in my class. Is it perfect? No, I definitely wouldn't claim that. Like I said, they're just kind of glorified worksheets. It's how you manage it in the classroom with classroom discussion and engagement that I think is going to help it come alive. If you just give it as homework, I don't know how that'll turn. But for me, it's increased classroom engagement, and I've liked it. So anything else? Otherwise, I'm done. Okay.